I want to read you a little something I've recently written about how the soul is elevated and reformed, and how light entering into a person's life, how it affects every aspect of his or her being in the most positive way. So let me read a little something I wrote here. It is always then the truth by which the soul is led, and it is God who reveals the truth so that the soul can see it. In his mercy, God gives the person the space to see, the time, and God may restrain temptations so that the soul is not overwhelmed. So, the soul is led by truth. Can you see that before light enters a person's life, the person is led by lies? The whole world is filled with lies, and we are born subject to this world of liars and people who are led by lies and people who are confused and people who are misled, and so we're led into error. But when God's light enters your life, then you are led into truth. And the truth counters the lie, and believing the truth and following the truth. See, you are thereby saved from error. Do you understand? Can you understand that when a little child is born into the world, when the little child comes into the world, it's completely innocent, and it has a gift. God gives this gift to all children who are born, the gift of intuition, a light. And if that child were able to follow that light from beginning to end, to always follow the light, to never deviate from it, to never doubt it, to never flinch, to live by the light and love the light and follow the light, that child would be led on a trajectory directly to God. But what happens is that early in our lives we are deflected. And it happens in various ways. First of all, we as little children, though we have this gift of light, of intuition, we are born subject to our parents. And our parents, they themselves had been misled. They themselves had been traumatized, and they had fallen. And they themselves were a victim of the world in which they came into being. Do you understand? And so they misled us. And then we were emotionalized, and emotions separate you from your ability to perceive clearly in God's light. And then there's doubt. Everywhere you go, people try to make you doubt yourself, doubt what you see about them, doubt what you know in your heart. And so they play games with your mind, and so little by little the child is deflected. But now can you see that if you could return to the light once again and follow it, then you would be back on the trajectory to your Creator. It's that simple. So I wrote, it is always then the truth by which a soul is led, and it is God who reveals the truth so that the soul can see it. God sees to it that whenever possible, the person be given a slow, steady ascent, so that at each level the person gains a thorough understanding and has time to gain experience in applying what it has been shown. Now, there are situations where, like the thief on the cross, you remember, the thief said to Jesus, he said, Jesus, when you enter into your kingdom, please remember me. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. Well, for that thief, there was not a lot of time to gently make the ascent. And so God granted that his ascent be very fast. But where possible, God would like the ascent to be very gradual, and I'm going to say why. And for most of us, that's the case. Most of us have many years, decades within which to grow, and it's very beautiful. So As I said, God sees to it that whenever possible, the person be given a slow, steady ascent, so that at each level the person gains a thorough understanding and has time to gain experience in applying what it has been shown. There is the sudden realization in a lightning flash. You simply see. Then in the light of what you saw, you experience the appropriate feeling in your physical being. If you realize in a lightning flash God's forgiveness, then you experience a profound sense of gratitude and relief. If, for example, you realize the greatness of one of God's creations, then you experience awe and wonder for your Creator. It's mental and also palpable. Should you realize your error or wrong, you experience a feeling of regret about what you saw, sadness, and perhaps a purging in the light. Then you experience gladness. You are sad to see your wrong, but glad to see it and to come clean. When you come out of such experiences, especially early in your meditative life, you will feel clean. The world will appear brighter, and you will sense joy and a hope. It is in this way that our emotions are reformed and purified. Then will come more realizations, perhaps a flood of insights. These extend the realization into the mind and deepen the understanding. By such realizations and insights, the mind is reformed and also saved in that now the mind is occupied with good things, noble thoughts and truths. Memories may now flash before the mind of past events in your life associated with what you are realizing. You will see, in the case of some error, come to light for observation past times when you failed in this regard. In other words, the light, in a sense, rubs your nose in some of your past failings. They flash before you. You have a memory, another memory that are times in the past when, for example, you were impatient. Let's just say you suddenly see your own impatience. So you see it, you regret it. Now you're having a proper emotion. In the past, all of your emotions were responses to the outside. Now your emotions are a response to God's inner light, you see. So your emotions are being reformed. So you feel a proper sadness associated with seeing your impatience and regretting what you see about yourself, but also realizing you can't change yourself, so it's a helpless sadness. And then flashes of memories of times in the past when you were impatient with your mom or with your kids or with your partner or with someone. And in such a way, memories may flash before the mind of past events in your life associated with what you are now realizing. You will see, in the case of some error, for example, come to light for observation past times when you failed. These are seen now in the right viewpoint and attitude, and thus the memory is also reformed and cleaned. Do you see how your memory is reformed and cleaned in this way? Once having seen your error in some past moment, seeing it in the light with the response deemed appropriate by the light, the memory fades away, and you never have to revisit it again. Now purged, enlightened, chastened, humbled, and forgiven, you go out in the world, and at some point a situation will arise similar to the one you failed at. Now with your new insight and understanding, and especially with the important realization that of yourself you can do nothing, you now are afforded the opportunity to handle the situation right. Often there is nothing to do. The mere fact that your attitude has been rectified is often enough. In the past you would have resented, now you are patient. In the past you would have judged, now you remain the patient observer, discerning in the light. In the past, you would have tried to compensate for your guilt and made things worse. Now you remain innocent and feel no need to compensate. You will be made aware that your newfound patience and understanding is the result of God's grace and mercy. You will be physically and mentally awed at seeing how you have reached a new level, and you will be grateful, realizing that it is due to God's helping you. Okay, now, I wrote that, and I want to read you something else here. This is basically saying the same thing, but just in a little different way, talking about how the meditation, or a prayer of silence, for example, is the door to the light entering your life, and you're being ready to be responsive to it. So this is Father de Clorivière, writing in his little book, Opuscule sur la prière, Book 2. I'm quoting this from Poulen's The Graces of Interior Prayer. Father de Clorivière says, "New graces are the reward of souls who are faithful in responding to God's designs. They are, as it were, imperceptibly raised to a more perfect state." Remember I said how we are raised to higher levels in a very slow, gradual process. They are, as it were, imperceptibly raised to a more perfect state. Their love, although more ardent, no longer affords them the same consolation because it is more enlightened. They see clearly, they feel that it is neither the multiplicity nor the variety of their acts that render them more pleasing to God, that the simpler their acts are, the greater is their perfection, and the more do they bring the soul into that calm in which God is pleased to act. Little by little they withdraw from the multiplicity of acts which has no longer the same attraction for them, and which would rather tend to dissipate them than to bring them to God by preventing them from following the leading of the Holy Spirit. So it's very beautiful.